I think the Me Too movement in Korea is going to have a much tougher time than it's having in America because of the way Korean people confront each other. I've been thinking about doing a video like this for so very long, and I've been really afraid to do it because this issue of, I don't know, the Me Too movement and feminism in general, and maybe especially feminism in Korea, is a real divisive subject. There are extremes on both sides. There are many people in the middle at different points, and I feel like almost anything I say will be construed as bad or terrible by somebody. And I feel like a real bad guy for being too afraid to really talk about this subject at all, just because I'm so afraid of being personally attacked or saying something that somebody else is going to run with and I'm going to get in trouble. But this week, or this last couple of weeks, it's my understanding that the Me Too movement has really taken off in Korea. And I will say this, in general, I think the movement is great. I don't know how it's working out so well in Korea. I'm not sure what the ramifications have been in Korea. But in America, it's been what we call in English a moment. It's been a really good moment. Like, finally, women are coming out against sexual abusers, sexual harassers. And I hope that from now on, men, especially men in power, will be afraid to sexually harass women. It really is overall a good thing. But like anything, there's some extremes. I think everyone deserves their day in court. Just because someone is accused of something, whether it's sexual harassment or anything, they deserve to be taken to court and proven guilty. Like in American law, and I'm pretty sure it's Korean law as well, you're innocent until proven guilty. Now, that being said, there's some people who have been accused by dozens of women, and I feel bad. I mean, it's kind of obvious that they did something wrong, but those guys also deserve their day in court. So there's many angles to this, and I'll tell you right now, my YouTube audience is like 70% men, so I don't know what's going to happen in the comments on this video, but let me just get it out there. One of the big differences, I think, between the two movements is just the way that Korean people communicate with each other versus the way that Americans communicate with each other. Now, whenever I talk about this with a Korean friend who has lived in America, or basically a Korean friend who's lived in America and been around a lot of Americans in general, there's kind of the spectrum. You've got Koreans on one end, you've got Europeans here, and then you've got like Americans over here. And I would say this is like the argument spectrum. Korean people generally don't like to confront each other directly, especially if it's with someone you don't know that well. European people are okay to argue, and then what I always say is Americans, we're not just okay to argue, we like arguing. It's like our sport. It's the thing we want to do. You can have something completely benign, like the shade of color of lipstick, where someone says, oh, that's red. No, that's mahogany. No, mahogany is more of a brown. Yeah, but that is kind of brown. No, but like this is a red. It's not we will argue about anything endlessly. Just something about our ego. It's something about just the way we are is we're just super confrontational, and we want to be right, and we don't care what the subject is. We don't care if it's provable or not provable. And oftentimes for me, this can be really annoying. It's annoying that whenever I make any statement in front of American people, especially certain American people, there has to be this argument and this back and forth about it, and it's just super annoying. And sometimes it can be a real relief when I'm with Korean friends, because you can just say things without having to be so careful that they're going to say like, no, that's not red, that's mahogany, or some just asinine and stupid like that. One of the things I do appreciate about hanging out with Korean people is that, like in general, they're not just less confrontational, but just kind of nicer. I mean, that's a breath of fresh air. But in some cases, this American argumentative style is extremely useful. And I think really no more so than like with this new wave of feminism, this new wave of the Me Too movement and everything. Because this issue is extremely complicated. Extremely complicated. Like, there are so many different, I don't even know if complicated is the word, there's just so many different gray areas and so many arguments wrapped up in this that there's no one who just has it all figured out. Even the staunchest feminist, or even the staunchest anti-feminist, I don't know what the opposing would be, but nobody has it all figured out because there's so many little angles. And how do you get out of this problem of having so many angles, so many little gray areas? You have to have open debate and discussion with people, preferably face to face. And this is where Korean communication style kind of breaks down. Korean people are super nice, and they also will have a harder time giving their actual opinion, especially face to face. Now you might say, no, with my good friends, I'll speak face to face. I'll tell them truth. We'll talk about feminism and sexual harassment and all that stuff. Yes, with your good friends. And that's good. You should have the discussion with your good friends. But you should also be having it with people who are not your great friends, because people who are your good friends, for one, tend to have the same opinion as you. And two, like, they're not going to show you a new angle. Whereas when you're talking to someone you don't know that well, they probably won't have the exact same opinion as you. And they might be able to open up your mind to a different angle. So when Korean people meet somebody they don't know that well, somebody, a friend of a friend, or somebody you just know through work but you're not that close with, you'll shy away from these kind of topics. Like, is this bad? Is this good? I don't know. Let's talk about the weather. Ooh, the weather's getting really warm these days. Yay! Right? And this American style of confront, and Americans feel the same way. I don't go up to strangers in the street and argue about the Me2 movement with them. But the level of comfortability that Americans feel with other people who are not that close with them, I think, is much more than Korean people. There's a lot of habits that I say Americans do that Korean people don't do. My Korean friends say, no, we do that. Yes, you do that with close friends. Americans can do that kind of stuff with people they don't know that well, people they met for the first time at a bar randomly, friends of friends they met for the first time, co-workers they're not that close with. We can have a full-on argument and debate, and we'll get really angry. We might end up hating each other afterwards, but we can do it, and that helps sort through these issues. Now, on the flip side, I think when Korean people are of agreement, when there has been a decision that's made, when there's no gray area, because the Me Too movement has a lot of gray areas, as I've been saying, when there's no gray areas, Korean people rush at it and get that shit done. So what I'm always thinking about is when Park Geun-hye was having all these protests against her, at some point, the Korean public, like 80% or 85%, some crazy, huge majority decided Park Geun-hye did something bad, she needs to go. What did the Korean people do? They protested every goddamn weekend. Like 1 million people, like 2% of the country's population, protested every weekend in the winter on Saturdays when they're supposed to be having their day off. And I heard of all these organizational tactics where like people would relieve other people, so when their turn was over, somebody else would come in and take their turn. This stuff is amazing. So when there's a decision made and there's no gray area, Korean people get the job done and do it 100%. The problem is when there is a gray area, Korean people are, I think, not very confrontational, especially with friends that they're not that close to. And then on the flip side, I think this is not just Korean people, this is everyone, but people are monsters on the internet. People are just no holds barred, saying things they would never say face to face. Americans too. Like when people get on the internet, they're just vicious and terrible. They'll even say things just to make you angry. Like 20% of people who are arguing on the internet, they don't even care. They just want to make you angry. And I think in Korea, I don't know, because I've never been on the Korean internet. I can't speak Korean, so I can't get in the message boards. But I think the way that Korean people have to be repressed in everyday life, face to face with everyone, might make it so they're even kind of worse on the internet, because that's the time you can finally vent, and you can finally get all your feelings out, you can finally attack each other. And because of this, these gray areas, these issues are not going to be dealt with as well in Korea as they have been in America. That's just my opinion. Because you really need a good face-to-face talk with someone who's not your best friend, somebody who's not your close friend, somebody who comes from a different spectrum. And as much as I'm saying that Americans are open to arguing with each other, that's true, we have a very hard time accepting other people's opinions. So that's kind of our problem. But I think in Korea, the problem of not being able to confront each other face to face, but also being wildly vicious to each other on the internet, is going to make it so that the whole process of this wave of feminism, of this Me Too movement, is going to be much rougher in Korea than it has been in America. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hate this video, give it a thumbs down. If you love me or you hate me, please hit the subscribe button. Remember, these videos come out every Friday at 7 p.m. So if it's after Friday and it's Friday and it's after 7 p.m., you should check out my new video. Leave comments on this video. I am so scared in general. I was being really, I feel disappointed in myself now. I was not being really showing my views sharply. I was kind of hiding myself. And I do have views on the subject, but I am really afraid of getting attacked and having some clip of me being taken and spread around the internet and getting in big trouble. But I do want to give this point of view that I've been having, that it's hard to have, it's a little harder to have open debate in Korea because of basically the politeness of Korean people. And yeah, so if you have any comments, please leave them below, for or against me. Either way, it's really good. And of course, remember the most important thing of all: have a super awesome day.
창원 그리고 김유리 덕분에 저는 이런 영상을 만들 수 있어요. 여러분의 지원 덕분에 이번 영상을 제작할 수 있었습니다.